What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. So we just had a new patch, which means it's time to look at a few newer picks doing much better in 7.3 over in Korea. So in theory, we're going to find stuff just a little bit before everyone else does, but let me know what you think of these in the comments if you expected them or not. So I'm going to do something a little bit different, so just quickly look at what is actually the best over there so far in stomping games. The difference is these were all doing well in the previous patches as well. So Graves is picked in almost 30% of games now. As a jungler, that is insane, by the way. Normally it's one of the most diverse roles with the mid lane, but he has had a really good win rate still. It's a mix of lethality builds and warrior, black cleaver, and phantom dancer, which is more of this bruiser and just kind of reducing their damage and just don't die. Basically, he's seen as one of the best carry junglers with his burst now, especially if Kha'Zix and Rengar are banned, which they normally are on that server. Talon is another one who's really good at mid and top at the moment. We talked about his rise last patch, but he's definitely here now. Moby Boots roaming is disgusting, and that's exactly how they play him. They do decently well in the lane phase, then they roam all game. He's one of the best laners at closing out a game before 30 minutes. He is really good at the moment. Misfortune has a 55% win rate, a high elo, which is the same as the Korean Lucian when he was overpowered, so that is really high. Over there, they get lethality combined with a percentage armor shred from Black Cleaver, so it covers both bases. It covers like a small amount of armor and also shredding a tank. She is the best AD by far at the moment. If anyone oversteps, you ult and it turns the fight instantly. Blitzcrank is the best support in Korea for a long time actually now. He's legit held the #1 win rate for the past 5 patches, which is ridiculous seeing as his play rate is so high as well. The most popular ADs are Jhin, Varus, Caitlyn, and Ashe over there. Like supports Karma, Zara, Misfortune. They're all immobile and they're such easy hook targets. They're so easy to burst. He's so good at getting a lead early and accelerating these lethality ADs to their first few items, which now with the lethality buffs is even better. Finally, Shaco is the best jungler at the moment for the past 2 patches, and surprisingly, it's not really lethality either. Lethality is still okay and stuff, but it's mainly Warrior, Hydra, and Shiv as the first 3 items and running a one-shot crit build. Basically, he is like the best mid-game jungler at the moment. The early decent ganks are good and stuff, but at 2 or 3 items he can one-shot, and it's really hard to play against that now he's invisible. So those are the most overpowered in Korea at the moment. We're going to look at some more champions who are super strong but new to this patch, and let me know by the way if you liked having those extras or not. So Quinn is the first one of this actual video. She's the best top laner by a mile in Korea at the moment. She's creeped up the last patch but exploded in 7.3. Lethality is the real cause. Like, she's already strong but tipped over the edge and made people realize just how good she actually is. Basically, you're going to do well in the early lane phase. You're naturally quite strong with your range side, you have the procs and your blind as well, and then you roam like a god with your bird form. Not only is it the roaming though that is really hard to play against, but it's the synergy with the lethality items. So Ghostblade, you're already very fast with your bird form, but now you're even faster with the Ghostblade active. You actually can't get away from that. It's ridiculous. Edge of Night means she's already flying at you too fast to run away, but now she has a spell shield, so she blocks anything that you try to use to get her out of her bird form and reduce her move speed or lock her down to get away. Dustblade is the true damage burst, right, as well, which contributes to one-shotting people, but you close the gap so quickly you do apply the true damage. Like, remember, damage only applies if it's used within 4 seconds of being seen. So basically, not only does she have good damage at the moment, not only is she a really good roamer who can impact every lane, hunt people down, but all the lethality items increase that damage, but they synergize so well with her kit. That is why she's so broken at the moment. Normally we go over matchups and stuff, but honestly, she's that strong, she is spanking everybody except Fiora, which is pretty even. Kled is one of those picks who actually is not a ton stronger now as like a champion. He wasn't buffed or anything, but he's stronger in comparison to everybody else because there have been a few nerfs. He is a really good anti-AD champion, and he's super strong in the lane phase. He beats like Jace and Riven pretty hard, and he's good versus tanks because of fervor as well. I still think there's that surprise factor when people don't really understand where his damage comes from, like what you have to dodge or why he's so strong, which does give him an edge. The build is very versatile though. Black Cleaver and Titanic Hydra is health stacking, so you're kind of naturally quite tanky, which also increases your damage, but naturally you get a lot from fervor anyway. It's kind of surprising when the meta is filled with lethality that this guy who doesn't build it is actually better, but basically I think it's because he's good versus them. Top lane is a bit more active this patch as well at the moment. Like, it's still an island, but you're more roam centric as well. Kled is basically the perfect roaming tool, right, with his ultimate, so he can really carry the entire map. Matchup wise, Fiora again is one of the only champions who does consistently well against him. Apart from that, Kled should have a pretty decent lane phase, to be honest. This one is lethality abusing at its finest, honestly. That when Rengar and Kha'Zix are always banned, this is basically the next best thing in Nocturne. He does decent at every single elo because of his burst damage. So at lower ranks, you catch people off guard, you one-shot them. They split more, like they farm side lanes and stuff, right? So you can ultimate burst them when they're on their own. At higher ranks, they do group a bit more, so it's a bit harder, but you can still one-shot, so that doesn't really matter this patch as much. Now over here in like Europe and also North America, like Nocturne tends to do well early to mid-game but falls off a bit. And actually in Korea, he gets better super late game. It's mainly because if you time it right and you play it like like a Rengar or a Kha'Zix, be the follow-up engage and burst someone down, you'll end up doing a lot of work and a lot of cleanup. Koreans also get Hydra a lot of the time. This is something more advanced mechanically, so if you're new to Nocturne, you probably don't want to do it actually. Basically, it adds burst because you can auto as you fly in with your ultimate, use the Hydra, then auto straight away again. It's really hard to pull off, but it's crazy DPS because you're using an auto reset. Your spell shield gives you pretty good matchups actually, like you can block Lee Sin, Kha'Zix via Q and end up turning fights because they couldn't use their main damage. Now Evelynn is another one. As more and more junglers get nerfed, so Kha'Zix and Rengar and stuff, Evelynn naturally gets better and she's been creeping up win rate wise the past few patches, but now she's very good. She's one of the best early game junglers still, actually able to pressure lane super hard and snowball with her damage as well because she still one-shots people when she's ahead. Protobell and Lichbane are core basically every single game for Koreans, and they do build her full AP for burst damage, which isn't really a surprise. Flanking is a pretty hard thing to do in the game actually, but it's also reliant on your team. If they don't know how to deal with you flanking, they're going to screw it up before you get the chance to get into position, and that can actually be really harmful. The thing is, if you can flank though on Evelynn, then you can access the backline and you remove the carries in a split second. That is what she is designed to do. Also, surprisingly actually, Smited Ignite is used in about 15 to 20% of games, even at high elo, to cheese people. She does struggle versus really high burst, so like Shaco, Rengar and Nocturne, who get rid of her before she can do any damage, but she's decent against the mobile champions. Also, one of the things that is probably making her super good at the moment is Jhin is the most popular AD carry. When Jhin is using his ultimate, it is the perfect time for you to flank him and get him. He ults, you flank around while he's aiming, and you can kill him before he realizes. Now we're going to pick on a support. So Brand support is much better this patch, not even like from top 10 last time to top 5 now as a support, and overtaking Zara and Malzahar. Obviously he is not played as much, so you like can't take it at face value, but when he is, he's doing better, and they take Ignite as well. It's a very ham lane phase. Your poke is actually really good on a Brand. The early damage is nuts if you play aggressive, and you get your passive proc on them, which also can hit other people, remember. Rylai's Yandrews being cheaper helps a lot at the moment, but it means you can really start to do more damage in the game, and you're similar to Zara to be honest. You'll end up doing a lot of damage over the course of the game anyway in team fights. The only reason he isn't higher to be honest is because of Blitzcrank and Zyra, who are really popular and do pretty well against him. Zyra is like the easier combo version of Brand basically. The root is easy to hit, so is your ultimate. It's very straightforward. Brand is not as easy to play. There's a bit more to him, but he can be just as effective, if not more effective, and actually do more damage. Blitzcrank as well, if he hooks you, you're basically dead, but against any others, he does really well at the moment, especially Miss Fortune, who is super popular over there as a support. This is really good at lower ranks as well. If you want to climb as a support, this is a really good way to do it because you have so much damage. So even if your AD carry is dog poo, you can just do the damage he's supposed to do and it's all good. Let's move back to the top lane. So Akali has spiked up the last 2 patches a lot, like Kled actually, and at the moment is the best early game top lane that you can play. If the game ends before 25 minutes in career with an Akali in it, over 60% of the time Akali is going to win that game, which is absolutely nuts stat wise. It seems like the Gunblade nerfs didn't really screw her that much, and the new Zhonya's rework a while ago is always going to help her a little bit, the mix of offense and defense, which is exactly what she wants. Her burst is going to be insane when she's ahead, obviously, the healing, the invisibility, and it's super hard to shut her down or actively just stop her from killing someone on your team. Like if she's fed right and she dives in, she's pretty much always going to go 1 for 1, if not 2 or 3 or 4 before she dies. Getting Zhonya's and having the invisibility basically makes exhaust pointless as well. Like as soon as it's used, you just wait the cooldown out without taking damage by using the Zhonya's or going invisible, and you go afterwards. Surprisingly, matchup wise, she's not actually as beast as you think though 1v1. Like she loses to Jace, Pantheon in most games, but the more common one she does win on average. Most of it is going to come down to the roaming after a lane phase though. She gets ahead, then she moves into other lanes where they just can't deal with that burst that early into the game. Like she'll use 1 ult charge to gap close on the minion wave and then 2 to kill you. She's kind of like a budget version of Quinn actually without a bird. Like she does damage, she snowballs hard, but Quinn is better later because as soon as you get out of the lane phase, Akali can't really hump down people as well, but Quinn can. So when I saw Nidalee on here and I started researching this, I was super confused. Like Korea is known for shorter games in general. Quinn and Talon back that up more too, but I think games are going a bit longer this patch. At least some are going later anyway. Nidalee is supposed to be an early game beast, right? Like she out pressures, she ganks a ton with her mobility and her base damage. The thing is, in Korea at the moment, she is easy to punish early game apparently and snowball on, but she's decent mid game and the 4th best jungler to have statistically late game. This does not mean she's bad early or anything like that. You can't read into it that much, but like on average, she's better than most junglers at full build. I think it's kind of hard to play her late game, but Korea does go full damage, and full damage Nidalee, if she's able to flank and execute, does a crap ton of damage still. That's probably the biggest difference I think actually. We tend to build Athenes and go like early pressure into basically another supporty version with the AD carry. Korea goes damage and tries to hard carry. Matchup wise, she still seems to get spanked by lethality users who bursted too hard, which isn't going to be a massive surprise, but anything else she's able to keep up okay with. One thing I actually want to point out with Nilly though is she's a very, very good farmer. So she's actually very good at hard carrying a game herself because she can power farm the jungle and get so much gold. Most junglers are kind of low income, which means they make do with what they get, but unless they get a lot of kills, they're not actually able to do that much because they don't have many items. Nilly is very different, especially in Korea. You can power farm the jungle, you're still able to gank and stuff because you farm so quickly, and that means you're going to have some pressure early, but also you're going to get your 6 items much quicker than the enemy jungler. This is probably why she has such a good win rate later into the game, because at 40 minutes or 30 minutes, she's probably at 6 items where the enemy jungler is only at 4. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think of the picks and the slightly new format, if you enjoyed it or not. Thank you for watching. Sub to see some more if you want to, but for now, let's go to the robots.